What's going on, investors? Just here from Investments. And this little guy is my chompers. He's a good boy. He's a little licky though. Good boy. Okay, go on. So today I wanted to make a video just kind of clearing some confusion, because apparently there's a good amount of confusion when it comes to bridges and swap exchanges and getting involved on the Milkomeda network. So before we get started, I want to set some terminology for you. So a bridge is going to be bridging between networks. For instance, if I have funds on the Ethereum network, but I want them on the Binance network, I'm going to need what they call a bridge to bridge my funds between them, as those two networks do not communicate with each other. There's a lot of different bridges that are available depending on which token you're starting with and which one you're trying to end with. And you can also use multiple bridges along the way. So like, let's say I'm starting with Matic, but I need to go to Binance to get to something like Milkomeda. The next term I want to explain is a swap exchange. Now this is like a pancake swap or a Uniswap or a quick swap, where it's just an exchange where you're going to swap one token for another token that is on the same network. And then the last term I want to explain is a faucet. So when you're doing any transactions on the blockchain, you're going to need what they call gas to process that transaction. And when you initially transfer funds to a new blockchain, a lot of times you aren't going to have any gas to make a transaction. So a lot of times what you'll do is you'll go to a site called a faucet, and you'll give them your address, and what they'll do in return is they'll send you a very small amount of the token so you can process some transactions and get going. It's usually not a lot, but it's enough to do a couple transactions and get started. Okay, so now that we got the terminology out of the way, let's get started on explaining what this video is going to be. So I've kind of made a video already explaining these bridges, explaining the Flint wallet, explaining the Milkomeda network, but this video is going to be a breakout video on how to bridge to Milkomeda from other networks. And in this video, I'm going to present a couple of bridges that are available, a couple swap exchanges, and also a couple faucets for you. And then just some facts to consider along the way. So one of the main issues of concern right now is there is multiple different versions of the same token depending on what bridge you're using to get to Milkomeda. So for instance, you can see there's a multi-USDC and a CE-USDC. And they're both on the Milkomeda network chain, but it depended on which bridge you actually use to get there. So it's important to know this because not each one of these are exactly the same. So multi-USDC is not the same as CE-USD. So the prefix here on these coins is dictated by what bridge you used. So the one I was using was Seller Network bridge. And because of that, I was getting CE-USD and staking in that pool. Okay, so that's confusion number one. Confusion number two is when you're doing all these bridges and swaps, you're going to have fees along the way, right? So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to check your path every step of the way to make sure that there's adequate liquidity and that the exchange fees are not too exorbitant for what you're doing for every step of the way from the beginning to the end. So what that's going to do is that's going to set you up so the pair you're going to start with to where you end is going to be the least amount of fees you can pay, which is obviously everyone's goal. So now that we got everything out of the way, let me show you the path that I took to get my funds onto Milkomeda. And keep in mind, this is a very indirect path because the funds that I had were on the Polygon network. So don't be too dissuaded by this infograph and its very, very skillful artwork here. But as you can see, I have the bridges marked in the orange. So I used two bridges and then I used two swap exchanges as well. You could probably find a way to make this a little more direct, but this is what I found that works best for me. So as you can see, I started with USDC on Matic, used the Evo bridge to go to USDC on Binance. And that USDC, I needed a swap to BNB on Binance. So I used Pancake Swap to do that. Then from there, when I had my BNB on Binance, I took it to the Seller Network bridge, which bridged it over to the Milkomeda network. And that bridged it as BNB CE. From there, I could take that BNB CE onto muesliswap. I don't know how to pronounce that swap exchange name, but you can swap it there for basically any coin you want. Again, just be mindful of the price impact and the swap fees that you're going to incur. So I'm going to take you step by step what I did and kind of explain it. And I'll also point out some other examples that you could use and why I did certain things the way I did. So like I said, I started off on the Polygon network. So most of my funds were on Matic. So I started off with USDC on Matic. And I went to the bridge on Evo DeFi. I went to the token bridge. And I went from Polygon. Got to connect my MetaMask to Polygon first. Yep. The Polygon network to the Binance network. And now it's going to ask you, which token do you want to swap? I only have 4 choices. I went with USDC. So this is going to swap my USDC on the Polygon network and put it on the Binance network. Again, these two networks do not talk to each other, so the only means of communication is via this bridge, aka this website. And I'm going to send 10, and I'm going to send 11 because the minimum is 10. And I'm going to hit send there. And these transactions are going to take quite a bit of time because it's not a normal transaction, and it's also going to have a higher fee associated with it. So as you can see, my transaction was completed. My USDC on Polygon was now converted to USDC on Binance Smart Chain. So what am I going to do with it from there? Well, if we go back to our info graph, so I now have my USDC on Binance, and our goal is to get it to Milkomeda. So let's look at some of the other swap exchanges, and I'll show you why I took this additional step. So if I want to swap something from the BNB Smart Chain to Milkomeda on the seller network bridge, I can only do 2 tokens. I can only do BNB or BUSD. And the same goes for multi-chain too. I kind of need BNB to operate on this bridge. So what I did is I went to PancakeSwap, and this is a swap exchange here. And I traded my BUSD for BNB. And we'll just do the max and we'll hit swap. And of course, we always like to look at our price impact. That's a very nice price impact. So no very big fees associated with that. Confirm my transaction. So what that did is my USDC on the Binance network is now BNB on the Binance network. So now I can actually take that to either one of these bridges and actually bridge to Milkomeda. So here you can see my BNB that I have on the Binance chain, and I can send it to the Milkomeda network. Now let's say I wanted to do 0.12 BNB. You can see I'm estimated to receive 0.11 BNB, just a little less. And one of the other reasons I like this bridge is because it actually acts as a faucet as well and gives you a little wrapped ADA to complete transactions once you're actually on the Milkomeda network. So as you can see, that would be my fee in BNB, and my expected output of this bridge would still be in terms of BNB, but it would now be on the Milkomeda network, which is kind of where we want to be. We wanted to get our funds from Polygon to Binance to Milkomeda, and now at least we have funds of some sort on the Milkomeda network. And you can see here a breakdown of the transfer and what I'm expected. Again, these take 5 or so minutes to transact, and here it shows you that I'm going to get 0.05 milk ADA to pay gas fees. So again, that acts as my faucet, which is a nice little feature. So I'm going to confirm this transfer. And while we wait, I'm going to show you one of the other bridges that we could have potentially used as well. We could have used multi-chain, and we could have done basically the same thing. We could have took BNB on the Binance Smart Chain and got BNB on the Milkomeda network via this bridge. I personally haven't used this bridge, but I don't believe it also has a faucet like the seller network does. And there's one more bridge. There's also one called Nomad. I have no experience with this one, but I just want to make sure you guys are aware that that is out there. Okay, so let's let our funds transfer here. You can see it's going to be pending for the next 5 minutes. Okay, and my transaction is now complete. So I should have my BNB on the Milkomeda network. And every time you change networks, you're going to have to reconnect your MetaMask wallet because it's going to ask you to switch. I have my MetaMask wallet already set up for the Milkomeda network. If you need an explainer for that, I do have a video that I released showing you how to do that on your MetaMask, and I'll also include a tutorial in the description below. So now I'm all set up, and my BNB CE is showing my balance here on the Milkomeda network. And from here, I can trade to any token I really want on the Milkomeda network. So if I wanted to go to Wrapped ADA, I could do that. If I wanted to go to any one of these other pairs, I could do that. Like if I wanted to go to USDC on Milkomeda, whatever I really want. So there's a couple of different exchanges that are operating already on the Milkomeda network. There's the muesliswap, there's muesliswap or whatever it's called, and an OCOMX swap. And these are the main 3 exchanges that exist on the Milkomeda network so far. Now, one of the things I want to point out right away is this is BNB CE, and that is because I used the seller network. If I were to have used this multi-chain network, I wouldn't have BNB CE. It would be BNB multi-chain. And the same goes for multiple of these coins. So you can see here, this is Binance USD on the multi-chain. Here's Binance USD CE. So that's one thing you want to be very conscious of, because some of these trading pairs might not have as much liquidity. So your price impact of making these trades might be significant. So again, make sure you check that out before you actually make the trade. If you need to, go through all the steps first and see what everything is going to look like. Okay, so for this last step, I'm going to show you how I would get to Wrapped ADA. And sometimes this will take a minute to load up, and it'll say insufficient liquidity. It just takes a minute to load up. But as you can see, my price impact is 0.06, which is not crazy high, but it's not 0.01 like we saw on PancakeSwap. So as you can see, there's not as much liquidity in this network yet. But I can go ahead and make this swap. And one of the reasons I'm able to make this swap is because I already have some Wrapped ADA. Because again, remember, when I used this bridge, it actually gave me some to do some more transactions. So it acted like a faucet in the meantime. If I didn't use that bridge and get a little bit of ADA, I wouldn't have been able to make that swap. So I would have needed to come to something like a faucet here, connect my wallet, and request a little bit of ADA to complete some transactions. So if you don't have enough Wrapped ADA to make a transaction, you can always hit up a faucet and get a little bit. Or you could always just make a bridge and get a little bit via the bridge on the seller network. Again, that's one of the reasons why I like that bridge specifically. Okay, so I think I pretty much covered everything for bridging. I know this isn't crystal clear, but a couple things you want to take away from this is each one of these chains does not communicate with each other, so you need to use a bridge between them. And sometimes these bridges like you to have a certain coin to interact on that bridge, right? So we saw on the Evo DeFi bridge, we used USDC. But that USDC that ended up on the Binance chain, on the back end of this Evo DeFi bridge, needed to be in a different form to get across the seller network bridge. So we needed to use a swap exchange like PancakeSwap to swap our USDC on Binance to BNB on Binance. From there, we took our BNB on Binance to the seller network bridge, because that's the token the seller network bridge really liked to interact to the Milkomeda network. So we sent our BNB from Binance over that seller network bridge to BNB CE on Milkomeda. And remember that CE stood for seller network. Multi-chain, the other bridge, had its own prefix. So that's something to always be conscious of. And remember, there might be less liquidity between some of those pairs. From there, we were actually on Milkomeda, which is our targeted network to be on. So from there, we could swap to any token that we needed that is on the Milkomeda network. Again, there was multiple swap exchanges we could have used. We used muesliswap because that one had decent liquidity, but I could have gone with any of the other ones. And our end goal was to get our Wrapped ADA so we could stake on Referral Finance here. So I'm going to leave links for you in the description below to all these bridges, all these swap exchanges, and a couple of faucets that you can use to help get you going. Another thing I'm going to do, like I mentioned, is make a breakout video of how to use the Flint wallet, which is obviously the easiest method that you could use, which just takes ADA and sends it to your MetaMask and wraps it in the same transaction. I'm also going to have a video coming up about impairment loss and how Revelin Finance is going to be a great opportunity to provide liquidity without suffering much impairment loss at all. So let me know your feedback below if you still have questions, if you thought I could have explained something better, or if I made it crystal clear for you, which I doubt because this is never crystal clear. So if you got value out of this, don't forget to use the currency of YouTube, give me a thumbs up, and subscribe for more content like this. Till next time, later.